So this is point slope form. Again, it gives you a point and a slope, and this is actually a lot easier because really you're just plugging numbers in for this part. Here's my point slope form, my y1, my x1, and my m. You're given your m, you're given an x1 and a y1, so it's literally just plugging in numbers, which is nice. For this one, it's going to be y minus whatever your y1 is, so 4 in this case, equals your slope times x minus my x1, which is 3. I don't have to rewrite this because since these are positive, you change the sign and they'll end up being negative. So we can just go for it. The next one, my slope is -3, so I'm going to put that right there. And then my y1 is 1. I guess I'll write that, x1, y1. So I plug that in there. And then x minus -2. So this ends up turning into a positive, so I am going to rewrite this one. Y minus 1 equals -3, x plus 2. All right, and then I want you to pause the video and get an answer for this last one. Okay, when you plug these numbers in, it's going to look like this. So the -4 goes here, the -1 goes here, the 3 goes here. But because this is y minus that number, we're going to have to change that sign. So it should end up looking like this, y plus 4. You also don't need a -1 there. I think if you typed it into Delta Math, it wouldn't count it wrong for you. It's just unnecessary. So if you left the 1 in there, you can get rid of it because 1 is just always assumed. And then this stays as x minus 3. Because it's a positive here, so it becomes a negative here. Let's go to the next page. Now we're working backwards with the point and the slope, so this is super easy as well. It's fairly quick. Your y1 is here, your x1 is here, and your slope is here. So the slope doesn't actually change sign, so we can just put that over there. It's pretty simple. These do change sign. So it looks like a -2 here. It's actually going to be a +2 over here. All right. This one looks like a -3 here. It's actually going to be a +3 over here. And then slope down here, 3/4 for my slope. My y1 and my x1. y1 is going to be a -7. My x1 is going to be a +6. Okay, so let's jump into what is like actually new for you guys and something that you may have seen before, but probably not because perpendicular bisector is very much a geometry word. But, all right, the word perpendicular. Do we remember what that word perpendicular means? Like, things intersect at what? 90-degree angle, a right angle, yeah. So like perpendicular means 90 degrees. And then bisector. I know y'all remember, what's bisects mean? Oh, good. Let's try that again. What's bisects mean? Cuts in half. So if something is cut in half at a right angle, then we need to, here, let's see. We're going to have a segment here that is cut in half. I guess it's not really a segment, it's a line because we're writing an equation of a line. But actually, it is a segment, and then a line cuts it in half, I think is how this works, because AB is the segment. So here's AB, and we got to figure out a line that cuts it in half at a right angle. So these halves are the same, and it's at a right angle. And we're trying to figure out what is the equation of this line. So we need to first figure out the midpoint and the slope of AB. All right, so it won't actually look like that. It's actually on a diagonal. We'll see. So we need the slope formula and the midpoint. So slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So x1, y1, x2, y2. 3 minus negative 4. 7 minus 5. So this number minus that number. This number minus that number. Positive 7 over 2. That's what we got. Also, if I add or subtract something wrong, you guys let me know. Alright, so 7/2 is our slope. So our slope equals 7/2. Great. We also need a midpoint. Why do we need a midpoint? Because to find the equation of this line, we need a point that's on that line. And a point that is on that line would be the midpoint, because that's the midpoint is where a line is bisected. It's where it's cut in half. So let's remember that midpoint formula, x1 plus x2 divided by 2. And this is all in like a giant ordered pair. y1 plus y2 divided by 2. All right, and then by the midpoint and the slope. So the midpoint would be, I'll write it under, 5 plus 7 divided by 2. My y's are negative 4 and 3 divided by 2. So my midpoint is just the average of the x's and the average of the y's. 5 plus 7 divided by 2 is 6. So 12 divided by 2 is 6. Negative 4 and positive 3 makes a negative 1. So it'd be 6 and negative 1/2. Went off the screen there. All right, so we have 6 and negative 1/2. Great. So we have a midpoint. And we have a slope. Cool. We found both of those things. All right, and then step 2 kind of gives us an idea. Write an equation that's perpendicular to AB that passes through the midpoint in both point slope and y-intercept form. Okay, so let's think about this. This slope is the slope of AB, but the slope of AB is different than the slope of the line that bisects it, right? But it hits at a 90-degree angle, so it's perpendicular. This is something that we have not talked about yet, but we're going to talk about it a lot more tomorrow, like parallel and perpendicular slopes, so we're just going to discuss what it means to be perpendicular. And it just, like, you've done this before, but you flip it and you change the sign. So it's the opposite reciprocal. So if my slope is 7/2, then my perpendicular, remember that's a symbol for perpendicular, my perpendicular slope would be, change the sign so it would become negative, and then flip it so it would be 2 over 7. So this is the slope that I need to use, and then my point doesn't change. The point is still right there, but the slope has to be perpendicular to the slope of AB. And then my point is 6, negative 1/2. Great, so now I have an x, I have a y, I can plug it into point slope form and y-intercept form. So first I'm going to do point slope form because it's just easier. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and then let's plug these things in. So y minus y1 is negative 1/2, so it becomes plus 1/2 equals the slope, negative 2 over 7, times my x is 6. And then there it is in point slope form. And there's actually a couple ways you can do this. You could just solve for y and get y-intercept form, or you can do it like we did before, where you plug in y equals mx plus b. You would end up with the same answer. So my y is negative 1/2, my m is negative 2 over 7, and my x is 6. And this gets fun with fractions, but we're going for it. We're going to multiply 6 and negative 2. So it's going to become 1/2 equals 6 times negative 2 is negative 12 over 7. Okay, and the reason we can multiply that is because 6 is the same as 6 over 1, and you can just multiply across. 7 times 1 is 7, 2 times 6 is 12. And then we're going to have to add these fractions together. All right, so 12 over 7 can be added to both sides, and I'm actually going to rewrite them where they're side by side, because for me it's just easier to see. So negative 1/2 plus 12 over 7. And we are going to need some common denominators. So if we remember at the beginning of the year when I was like, you need to know common denominators, this is where it comes in. We tested that at the beginning of the year, and here it goes, coming back. So we're going to find a common denominator for each of these, and the common denominator has to be 14. So because there's no other number, since 7 is prime, that it goes into. So 2 times 7, we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 7. So negative 7 over 14, plus we're going to multiply both of these by 2, 24 over 14. And we are going to now add these. But this is a negative 7, and this is a positive 24. So essentially you are subtracting them. So 24 minus 7 is 17. Ooh, that's ugly looking, isn't it? And that is what our B is, because that's what we got when we added these together. So B is going to equal 17 over 14. So y equals our perpendicular slope, negative 2 over 7, x plus 17 over 14. Woo! That was crazy. Also, this is a lot easier, isn't it? That point slope. Y-intercept form can be a little ugly because you can't just pick the prettiest point. It has to be wherever this line crosses the y-axis. All right, that's it.